What's the best exercise? What's the best diet? Who's the coolest of the cool? These are all things that we discuss on the podcast today with my awesome guest, Kelsea Hellyar. Kelsea is the co-host of the Thick Thighs Save Lives, try to say that 10 times fast, podcast, and the founder and creator of Constantly Varied Gear, which is one of the coolest female athletic leisure wear, athletic wear companies that I have seen in a long time. They've got some of the coolest tights. I was talking to her today about, hey, why can't dudes get some of these cool tights with all these awesome designs and everything like that on them? Anyway, she's going to work on that for me. But we have such a great and powerful conversation today. It's always awesome to talk to somebody who has a different mindset about what health, wellness, fitness, nutrition, all of those things look like. You guys are going to absolutely love Kelsea. I enjoyed our conversation. It went by so quick. Saddle up, get ready. You're going to love it. All right, here we go. Hello, Kelsea. Welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I am doing fantastic. We had a little chat to kind of get to know each other a little bit, but I'm excited about this for a lot of reasons. I love meeting like-minded people like in the fitness space and the nutrition space and the transformation world, or whatever you want to call what it is that we do. I want to get your opinion on that too. I'm going to make myself a little note. I think that'd be a great question. But yeah, I'm excited. You're entrepreneurial like crazy. You love helping people. You've got an awesome podcast. So we're going to dive into all that. But before we do, just give me the elevator pitch, Uber pitch. Like if I'm driving Uber and I'm like, hey, what do you do? Like, who are you? Who are you, lady?
Quick and dirty.
What's going on?
That's always been a really hard box for me to create.
Oh, listen, I can't answer the question.
Okay.
So I'm a little bit of an asshole for asking it, but I'm hoping that someday somebody says something that I'm like, oh, I'm gonna take that and use it. So yeah. What you got?
That inspires you to create it. Yeah. So I am the Chief Brand Officer at Constantly Varied Gear. That's currently the role that I'm kind of in here, although I have my hand literally in everything because I'm an entrepreneur. But actually originally I started in social work. So I have my master's degree in clinical social work and psychology. So my idea for what I thought I wanted to do was individual therapy. So I never really had and I thought I was going to open my private practice. And I knew that, I knew that I had a business sense behind it, but I thought I was going to be in a therapy role of helping people on that end. And I kind of realized there was a lot of red tape around what you could do with people and the limits to, how you could impact people's lives.
Yeah.
And the more that I learned about just how we help people from a mental health perspective and then from a physical health perspective, they were not connected at all. And that was very bothersome to me because that doesn't make any sense. How we live our lives does not chop off our head and say okay, now we're just active in our bodies and we're not concentrating on our mental health, and where you are mentally has no effect on your physical health. It didn't make any sense. So when we decided that Constantly Varied Gear was going to kind of move more into the fitness space, where I started was just kind of giving away free workouts. I was like, hi, ladies, I'm Kelsea, and let's do a workout together, and you could win some leggings and get them acquainted with the apparel. But it was more of a secondary idea than to just kind of having a platform and creating space to help people. So, I know that's a long.
No, I think it's a great transition. I love we have similar backgrounds in how that started. I started in medicine and in nursing, and I thought I was going to be, do all of these great things medically. And then I realized that this is so broken that I'm never going to be able to do what it is that I have to do with my life. And if I continue down this path, I'm going to be broken and miserable, and I'm never going to fulfill my purpose. And so when you're talking, I'm I can totally relate. How did you transition? You gave me a little bit there, but how did that transition from, clinical practice of social work to fitness and the area that we're in now?
Yeah. I love that you said that the system is so broken, because I say that to a lot of people, because I went into, different areas where I was like in intensive foster care. I worked with people in their homes who had their children moved from DCF and trying to stabilize the home. It was, a home stabilization program. And I was like, each place that I went, I was like, this system is so broken. I'm trying to find different avenues that it's not broken and I can really serve my purpose. And I had to create it.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't find it in a broken system. I had to create it outside of that. So yeah, the idea was to kind of honestly disrupt the diet industry with some new ideas. So I started with the workouts, and they were all based on performance. So it was not based around losing weight. It wasn't based around physical appearance. It wasn't based on any aesthetic goals. It was really just like, hey, let's move our bodies in a purposeful way that feels good for us. And start to actually talk to women about listening to their bodies, which is just an amazing concept that a lot of people don't realize they're so far from. Listening to what their body actually needs, the movement that they feel good doing, and that doesn't look the same for everyone. So like, I would love to be married to like, this is the certain form of fitness that's going to work for everyone. Like me personally, I'm a CrossFitter, but like that doesn't work for everyone. No. And I can have the self-reflective enough to be like, that's not the avenue for everyone. It's not going to work for everyone. The same diet is not going to work for everyone. And like, coming into that space in health and fitness and being like, hey guys, so everything that you've been told is complete bullshit.
Right. Listen, I'm agreeing with you 100%. So we're in exactly on the same plane. I mean, I want to talk about that, the concept, the idea of listen to your body. Right. I think about it and I talk about it a lot, and I'm not sure I'm where I want to be with it. And that's why I want to keep having this conversation. Yes, 100%. Caveat, most people don't have a good enough relationship with themselves to even listen to their body, or their body has been lying to them, for lack of a better term, for so long that it's like it's a dysfunctional relationship, and who's really listening to who and who's doing that. So how do you unpack that when you kind of like get into the weeds of like, listen to your body, right?
Yeah, I love that you said that. And I love that you brought up that you're not quite there. Because I don't think any person, like every time I talk to women about their journey and they say like, I thought I was there, and then I had this incident that really disrupted how I thought about my body, or I had this day where like, I go in with like all this confidence and like, being okay with how my body looks aesthetically, but then I walk by a mirror and all of a sudden I think I'm back to square one. And the fact is that like, the journey of like health and fitness is ongoing. And I don't think it ever ends. I don't think we're ever going to get to a place where you are 100%, feeling like I am in total control of everything about my body. I, have this regimen that I stick to and I feel good about it every day, because like our bodies change. Our bodies change with age over the years, our environmental factors, our lives looks differently. So like at one point in my life, fitness was an extremely important part of my, daily life. But running a business has taken a lot of that time, where I still want to bring it back to, this is important for me and my health, but that is where my life is right now. So I have to give and take from, what I want to do and what I'm listening to doing to where I currently am. Just to go back to like the point of, how do we listen to our bodies to a place where we have, damaged that relationship? I think the first thing is realizing that you have damaged that relationship. Yeah. Because like, it's not only, sometimes physically where we have, damage, we've taken ourselves out of our bodies so that we can't even identify what our bodies are really needing. And then the secondary part of that is the damaged relationship with food. Yeah. So many people have a very damaged relationship with food, and it's not any fault of their own. We live in a world that we say, these things are good, things are bad. This, it's constantly fed to you. And even if you're in a place where like, I don't characterize foods as being good and evil, and it doesn't have a morality to it, even when you have conversations with people, they can't even, they bring it up every time. Right. So it's not like you can come to a place where you say like, I don't do that. I don't do the good and bad, but like, you do attend social events, right?
Yeah.
So eventually you're going to have someone say like, oh, you're being so good today, or you're being so bad. And it's like, by my food or the general presence here, or, you know.
And I don't know if you're saying this, but I'll say it. And I think you might agree with me. Like, even somebody like me, like, this is what I do for a living. I mean, I literally started working out when I was 11 years old, right? I'm 48. So for way more of my life than not, I've been doing something, right? Physically active. And then bring in the food component of it. And I'm still guilty of that's very same thing of looking at a food object and saying like, well, that's good, that's bad, I haven't earned that, I haven't this or what. And so listen, if I can be guilty of it, it's somebody who, this is my, all I do every single day, then don't beat yourself up if you're still guilty of that as well, because I think it's part of just who we are. It's kind of, we've been programmed that way, and unprogramming those beliefs and those thoughts of, rewarding ourselves. Like, I mean, if you think about even back to being a child, it's like, you get rewarded with cake and you get rewarded with ice cream. Like, no child ever has been rewarded with broccoli, right? It's like, if you're really good today, we are going to get you so much broccoli that you are going to, I mean, it's never happened, right? And so we've got these misconceptions and these convoluted thoughts about what food are just as a whole anyway. So I agree, like, we got to unpack a lot of things to get to that, like, what kind of relationship do I have with all of that? And I talk about it the very same way. It's like a relationship you have with another human almost.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that's overlooked, is that we treat our relationship with ourselves almost less than we treat our relationships with other people.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like a wild idea, because ultimately your relationships with other people depends on your relationship with yourself.
100%.
So if you're not going to have or address the relationship with yourself and your food, and something that you have to make a decision on every day, you're really not showing up for the people around you as a whole version of you. If you're, still having these conversations with yourself where, like, either it comes to confidence, like putting ourselves down, even just putting so much emphasis on the bodies that we're in. It's like, this is my vehicle to live this life, and its sole purpose here is not to look pretty.
Yeah.
It's not for aesthetic reasons. Its purpose is to carry me through all of these important things that I have going on. And I want to have good energy, and I want to be able to show up for the people around me. And, I want to be able to live a limitless life, right? To do the things that I want to be able to do. And my body allows me to do that.
Yeah.
So, like, changing that relationship to, like, are you an ornament, or are you, living in your body with, like, that's the only thing you're going to have for the rest of your life.
Right.
So, like, it's a pretty important relationship to work on.
Yeah. I'm big on analogies. So I used the same analogy this weekend. We were talking kind of about, like, definitions and concepts, and, like, like you said earlier, like weight loss and fitness and being healthy and all those things that get to never, it's a consistently varied thing. I mean, not to use your brand as a pun, but it really is. And then we were talking in this meeting that I had, and we were talking about, like, people believing they need something else to complete them, right? And so it's a good analogy. It's like, well, I'll find this person, and then when I find this person, then I'll be whole, and then everything will be perfect. And I said, well, if you're the version of yourself right now that feels incomplete, what do you think you're going to attract? It's going to be two incomplete jokers that try to make one whole, and the chaos that's going to create is going to be monumental. It's very similar to the relationship we have with ourselves when it comes to food and movement and all the crazy words, right? Like fit and healthy and well, and, like, it's all so radical that we are so confused about. I always say this, like, the fitness and nutrition industry is like a $5 trillion industry now. And we've never been more confused. We've never been unhealthier. We've never been more just crazy.
Yeah. And I mean, the fitness industry relies on you feeling confused.
100%.
Because if you're feeling confused, you're looking for the next thing that's going to be the answer. So the next thing is what they're going to sell you. So if you are so set and not feeling necessarily confused or looking for the next answer, you're not even bothered by all the noise that's going on in the fitness industry. Like, I run a group of of a fitness group of women that's like over 80,000 women. And the next new diet that comes up, it always makes its way in there. We always got to address it. And whether it's like keto or whether it's whoever we're demonizing this week, whether it be carbs or fat or like whoever it is, because it's, it's a new demon. You got to change it up when everyone realizes it doesn't work.
Right.
And so I get exposed to, and I love to have a pulse on what they are, because I get exposed to them. And it's really like, guys, we can learn things. New information can come out and you can say like, oh, I'd love to, experiment with some of this, or I'd love to experiment with some of this. But if you're looking for the next answer, it's always going to be the next one that comes out.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's totally just taking the D word, diet, and like putting a new dress on it, or changing the color of it, or giving it a new name, or, putting it on a magazine cover and having somebody in a white lab coat who we're trained to respect. Well, that's a doctor, so this must be the solution to my, all of my situations. You said something earlier that really resonated with me as well, is like, you talked about like you created this fitness concept, and it wasn't about weight loss. It wasn't about this. And so I think that weight loss, this is Jay Nixon's perspective, I believe weight loss is a side effect of all the other stuff, right? Like, I think if you look at life or whatever your journey is, and weight loss is the only variable that you care about, it's going to be really challenging to get to it. But if you just treat yourself better, if you just have a better relationship with yourself, if you just, make better decisions, if you sleep more, if you drink more water, then weight loss is going to be a natural side effect. And that's something that's sustainable for the rest of our lives. Like, I don't believe in teaching people things that aren't sustainable. And so you'll, if you ever go to my website, you'll see that I don't use the D word. I'm adamant about it being like probably one of the most destructive words in our, in the human language. And so, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love that you use it as a side effect, because that's often how I explain it to people as well. I think that if it's a side effect, if that's where your body is healthy. And I think for a lot of people, we hold on to the idea of a smaller body is healthier, and it's just not. No. That, it's funny because not funny, haha, but it's an interesting concept that, we don't ask people who are in smaller bodies how their health is doing generally.
Right.
And their health could be suffering tremendously, and they could not be living a healthy lifestyle. But because they're in a smaller bodies, we assume that they're in a healthier lifestyle, when that's not necessarily true.
Right.
And the side effect of living a healthier lifestyle is finding a body that works for you, right, and that you feel good in. So like, if you are sleeping well, if you are, prioritizing like food that makes you feel good, movement that makes you feel good, then it translates into different areas of your life, and just overall a healthier lifestyle. And one of the things about that is like the aesthetics for the ideal body are constantly changing. Oh, yeah. Like
based on whose opinion?
Exactly. So like, when we get so caught up in like it's been a challenge to be, I'm sure you understand this, in the fitness industry, and not using those words, and not using necessarily weight loss. Because when I talk to women about implementing more nutritious foods in their diet, they say, well, how much weight am I going to lose? And I'm like, I'm not going to go there with you, because like, it's not sustainable to keep just like looking for the next thing, and you think that you're going to get to this goal weight and you're going to find happiness and find health. And I want to jump in front of that and say, like, it doesn't happen there.
I've had to get radically honest. Yeah. People will ask me the same question, like, how much weight am I going to lose? How fast can I lose it?
Fast, yeah.
And I always say, I have no idea. And anybody who gives you an answer to that is a psychopath that you should run away from as fast as humanly possible. And they'll be like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, it's not, there's no formula on the planet that I can put you into and put all these different variables and parameters, and it's going to spit me out this by this number by this date. I mean, we can talk in hypotheticals if that's what you want to do. And but I could put two of you that look exactly the same. You're going to have two different results. And the caveat to what I said earlier is, if your body needs to lose weight, that will be a side effect. The other side effect might be you might gain some weight. Like
Yeah.
you might get more muscular, you might put on more body fat because you need it for that time of your life. And so, I think you and I mean, I don't meet very many people in the world that we live in that are willing to have a conversation like this, because I always tell my clients, I'm like, this is not sexy. Like, I'm never going to promise you something that sounds, hey, you want to lose 30 pounds in 30 days? I mean, that stuff drives me insane. It's like, but the sad thing is we're so programmed, is like, even though if I'm a consumer, I read that, I know it's not true, but I want it to be true so freaking bad that I'll say yes to it anyway. And then I'll just set myself up for another failure. So breaks my heart. Like it really bums me out.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does, because what you take is, people who are looking for an answer and often feel desperate looking for an answer, and you're feeding them bullshit. You're feeding them and nothing that is actually based on fact. And I love that you said that's like a psychopath, because I go so hard on that, because people have said, well, I got this answer from this person, and I'm like, well, that's fine, but that's not actually what's going to happen, because like even you and I could eat the same things, we could do the exact same workouts, and our bodies are going to look different. So the idea that you could give someone a formula and guarantee them a certain aesthetic within a certain time frame is absolutely insane. Like, you don't have that same body. Your metabolism is different. How you carry body fat's different. Like, your even day-to-day activity level, how you have experienced your environment until now is different. Like, there are so many genetics.
One of the first things people like, they'll either want to work with me or come to me and be like, okay, like, what's the first thing I should do? Okay, the first thing you have to do is this. And it's always something to do with the language they're using, the way they think, or something like that. And they're like, what does that have to do with weight loss? And I would, well, first and foremost, everything. But secondarily, like, if you still have the same belief system and the same mindset, I could give you it doesn't exist, but I could give you the perfect diet, the perfect exercise structure. I could give you every supplement on the planet. I could give you the perfect formula, and it would not work for you. And they're like, but I don't understand. What do you mean? And so it's like, it's kind of, I'm an anomaly when it comes to like most people, because most people just want, I can help you lose 10 pounds, right? And that may be very well true, but there's a million ways to lose 10 pounds. And there's, and there's also a million ways to not lose 10 pounds. And all of those things kind of come together in that. So it's refreshing to have a conversation with somebody who has the same kind of ideals and beliefs about the broken system. That, listen, we left a broken system when we came to another system that's broken, but at least this one, I feel like I have a slight bit more, I don't even want to use the word control, because that's way far from truth, but like a slight bit more influence, maybe.
Yeah, I always say like the impact, because like, even though we're not the minority in the space, I'm majority in the space. Like, we are taking up small corners, but the more discussions we have around this, the more we can have even just like living examples of people saying like, hey, like, I'm living a full, vibrant, healthy lifestyle, and that number on the scale changes during that time. And I'm still living this healthy lifestyle. Like, that's what health looks like to me, where it becomes like a body, mind, and like spirit, where your interactions with people and your relationships are healthy. And like, I don't know where along the lines we took health and we got so far away from what health actually looked like and felt like, that it just went into like, health looks like this thing, when it's like, health does not look like anything. You can't see health. Like, you can't see how mentally healthy someone is. Like, you cannot put a gauge on that. And as soon as we start redefining what health actually means, like personally for us, I think that's where we really start to make an individual change. Like, I always encourage women or the people I work with, to think about like, what does healthy look like for you? Like, what does that look like on a daily basis? Like, does it really look like not eating any of the foods that you enjoy? Does it really look like waking up at 4 a.m. for the gym every day? And is that sustainable for your life? Like it might be, but it might not be. So
Yeah.
putting that in like the sense of like, I can only be healthy if I get to the gym by 5 a.m. and I only eat salads and I am never at any Christmas dinners, or
Right.
like, that's not, does that look healthy? Does that feel healthy for you? And I think each of us are going to have, you know, very different definitions of what health will look like for us on a daily basis.
I love the word definite. Like I'm so huge on like language and definitions and everything. So I get people to define that for themselves before they ever start. Because if I don't know what your definition of health is, and I try to use mine and they're not even in the same book, then we're gonna miss, right? Like we're not gonna connect on that. I was telling you before we started, I had a live event this weekend. That's the first thing I did is I gave them their pre-work was they had to come with the definitions of like 7 different words. And then we went around the room and like everybody had a different definition of basic words. I mean, this was like, what does success mean? What does being fit mean? What does being healthy mean? Like, what does love mean? Like this money, I mean, words that like, you know, money, like what does money mean to you? And I always ask that question because that one like opens up a gamut of like, oh Lord, like this could get really crazy. Cause like, well, how do I say this? And so I like to see where people live at in their languaging and then offer them the opportunity to change the definition if they want to.
Yeah.
That's the key is I think we've been programmed and we've grown up. And when you go to school, they say, Jay, this is the definition of this. Therefore, you shall use this definition for the rest of your life. And as I've gotten older, like we talked about earlier, I make up words, I do all kind of things. It's like one of my greatest successes personally for me is I believe I've redefined the terms of how I'm willing to live. And it's been one of the most liberating and like success pieces of my puzzle. I mean, do you kind of have that? Do you feel the same way about like words and definitions?
Well, Jay, what a great exercise. First of all, I am in love with that. Number one, for even just like, you know, opening the idea to think about those words and identify them with ourselves. Like, I don't think we often do that. You just kind of go by a definition that's given to you and you're just like, well, what am I supposed to say success feels like?
Yeah.
And I think like I follow a lot of creators who are like, hey, you know, success is is a different definition for all of us. And it doesn't always look like what you think it might, with like making a lot of money or cars or, you know, some of the things that we're kind of geared, like shifted towards, like, that's not what success looks like for me. That's not what I prioritize, because like, I feel just in my personal sense that like success for me is, you know, more along the lines of like having an impact here. Like that is successful to me. And I drive a Saab and like, you know what I mean? Like that's not on the like success priority list for me. So I think that's a great exercise. And then even to just listen to what other people have to say for their same definitions. Like, totally. I love that.
Yeah, we went around the room and like it was like somebody else would say it and be like, oh my gosh, I've never thought of that.
Yeah.
And so it kind of goes back to what you were talking. We kind of started the conversation. I was like, you know, listening to your body. Well, if you and your body are using 2 definitions for the same word, then it's like, well, those 2 things are just going to, you know, have a conflict. And then it also allows people to, like, if we were just on the street, you know how they do those microphone things, like, hey, who was the 37th president, right? We walked around and we said, hey, what's the definition of this, right? We would get so many different answers, and we would also get a lot of people who were like, I don't know. I ask people all the time, like, you know, what's like, I was talking about living a purposeful life, you know, kind of like you mentioned, like success for you means like living on purpose, like making an impact. So I ask people a lot, I'm like, you know, because I talk about alignment, and like, if you're in alignment with who it is that you want to be, the decisions you make will be way different than if you're out of alignment. And so I ask people in the room, like, what's your purpose? And it's like, they're like, that's such a great question. And I wish I had an answer, but I don't know. And I always say, that's so okay, right? It's totally okay, but it's something to think about, right? It gives you more. And I don't think before I had them do this exercise that any of them had defined these basic terms probably ever, if not forever, for a really, really long time. So it was an unbelievable. I think I'll probably do it from now on, just with different words and things, just because it really opened up people's brain to like, oh, well, like we can both have two different definitions and both still be really happy, right? Like I don't have to have yours, you don't have to have mine, but we can get to the same place.
Yeah. I, just brought up thoughts about like confidence in making decisions, because I have a lot of discussions around that. People have asked me a lot, where do you get this like confidence from? Where do you come like with all these, how do you enter these rooms and kind of like come into them and just be like talking very confidently? But when you have identified your purpose and your decisions from there, they either align with your purpose or they don't. And they become a lot easier if you have that clear definition and you like to yourself. And then you can kind of say like, okay, does this align with my purpose or does this not? And it's kind of easier to weed out those, those tempting either opportunities or different decisions in your life that you have to make on a day-to-day basis.
Totally.
When you know what who you are, what your purpose is, and if this aligns or not. And if it doesn't align, I'm like, and we're moving on.
Totally. It makes life easy. Like I teach, we're not going to get into it, but I teach this thing called it's like my core value triad, right? So it's the 3 pillars of my core values. And I teach people how I can take any question, put it into that calculator. And if it doesn't meet all 3 criteria, then the answer is no. If it meets all 3 criteria, then the answer is yes. And it makes my life really easy. And so when you start to get people to think differently around that, right? It's like, okay, well, how do I make a decision? It's like, well, does it meet your core values? Is it in alignment with the purpose and passion that you have about life? And often the answer is no, but they still do it anyway. And so it's like, it's a really, it makes life so much easier if you do have those, your personal definitions, right, in place. Something I want to transition to a little bit, because we got so many awesome things to talk about. You're such a rock star. You mentioned the leggings, and you said, well, I did workouts, and then if you did this, then I would introduce you to the leggings. I mean, we're going to share your website in the show notes and everywhere, but it's just constantlyvariedgear.com. I mean, I've got it pulled up on my screen right now. Like, I mean, these are for ladies, but I'm thinking like, maybe I don't know, am I a medium? Like, I'm thinking like, get me some, they're so cool. Like you, did you just start out with like, hey, I'm going to get a pair of like this one color legging, and then I'll do that. And then now we've got sunflowers, and we got cool shirts, and we got like all kind of stuff. Like, how did you, I love the business entrepreneurial side of that. Like you took I'm sure you just liked leggings and you're like, people will love these. And now the next thing you know, we got a whole business.
Yeah. It snowballs into something bigger, but we actually started with shirts. And we started with like funny saying shirts, and it kind of like naturally progressed into more active wear. And that's where leggings started coming.
Were the funny shirts, were they fitness oriented, or they had
they were early on, they were more for like obstacle course races or CrossFitters. So they were kind of like geared towards just like funny sayings, things like that. But then we realized our customer base, who was kind of looking for those like funny sayings, or honestly like what they wanted to say to the world. Sure. Like whether that be like funny or sassy or like things like that, we were like, okay, that's the customer base. So then from there, getting some badass leggings just seemed like a natural.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Because like they're really stand out. Like they're, we have some solid ones, but there is a lot of just like standout patterns for, people who want to say something to the world. They want to be able to put on leggings that make them feel like they are inside. And I think that's where it started to, and like, I talk a lot about my community because like they really drive everything that we do. Like ultimately, like we're picking, I'm picking like designs and patterns and stuff here, but like they really come up with a lot of concepts. Like we released a Phoenix pattern in two colors, and they just said like, I feel like I'm a Phoenix. Like I've come out, I've gone through so much, and I was like, we're running with that idea. Like, that's cool. And then have come out with, some patterns since then. So it's really, it's come a long way. We have a lot of new stuff coming. We have releases every week. So we honestly have a new product coming out every week.
Every week?
Yeah.
What are you, crazy?
I know it didn't always be that way, but we moved on to and it's not always leggings. Sometimes it's, jackets or sports bras or dresses. We moved into dresses, shorts, things like that. We have really athleisure. We have so many different things because from our community too, like they loved wearing the leggings. We take so much pride in just coming out with good quality stuff. Like it's always like good quality stuff. Like you're not going to wear them one time, like that you got off Walmart or anything. Like they're going to be like sweat proof, squat proof, like things that were early on. People didn't know, like their leggings were completely see-through and they were trying to go through squats and like you could see through them. So we kind of like honed in on that. We're like, we are making leggings that you cannot see through. Like they're squat proof. Like that's really important for people that are moving.
Well, listen, it says on the website you've almost sold 700,000 leggings, and so I would assume that they would have to be pretty awesome, or that number would not be approaching 1 million.
Yes, yeah,
that's pretty cool.
We are actually our 800,000th customer. We gave her entire order for free. Aww. Because she was our and she happened to be like a new customer coming in, and we were just like, hey, guess what, like you happen to be this number, like here's your order for free. But yeah, it's a ton of word of mouth. Like when people believe in something, they believe in a message. We stand behind a pretty hard message, especially in the space that we're in. And then also, have the apparel behind it. People have really, they've rallied behind it. They've been like, I'm into this. I'm into all of these clothes. I want more. That's why we had to make dresses. We were like, they want to wear them everywhere.
That's so awesome. I love that. And just started with some fun t-shirts. And now we're here. The moral of that is just start. I mean, you have no idea where it's going to end up or how cool something could be. And we can use that for our health and wellness. We can use that for a new business. We can use that for a million different things. And so I think
honestly, like I even say this about our podcast too, like our first episode, like we just went over 200 episodes and we have like over 200 million or over 2 million downloads. Like it's great, but like we almost didn't do it at all because me and my sister were like, we're gonna say something wrong. There's no way that you can go and have people record and listen and like not say something stupid or wrong, or they could be taken the wrong way or like whatever. Like it's gonna happen. Like we're human. But we went with it and we were just like, all right, let's just try. Let's just put this out. And like, that is honestly, we have a saying here. It's like ready, fire, aim. And we're like, because when you work with a bunch of perfectionists, you're just like, we'll hold on to this forever. And I think a lot of people identify with that. They're waiting for the perfect workout program. They're waiting for the perfect diet. They're waiting for the perfect circumstances to do whatever the thing that they want to do in their life. And the perfect circumstances do not exist. They're never going to happen. Like the idea is like, if you want to get in some movement today and you don't have the workout program you're waiting for, like go for a walk. Just start.
Just pick something up and put it back down. It doesn't even have to be a weight.
No, could be a book bag.
Yeah, it could be anything. That's a great transition because that was my next question. So the Thick Thighs Saves Lives podcast, that is harder to say than maybe it's because of my accent, but saying Thick Thighs Save Lives podcast. I love the name. Why? And let's just get into it, right? And I agree with you on the podcast. I just need to know, like, right? I think we all want to know. I love it, but I need to know why. And then I agree, like I'm on like episode like 200, and I think this is like 229 or something like that. And people always ask me, I'm like, I just had to hit play. Or record, basically. I just had to hit record and I just had to start talking. And then we talked about this several times, like, Jay, sometimes you say things and they're not real. Like, like make up words and like whatever. I'm like, I'm just going to be me. And trust me, there's got to be an audience out there of people who are like, I do the same thing, or I could care less because I love the message. So whatever it is, just hit record, put it out there, and the world will receive it. So proud of you guys for just doing that and having such a podcast that people really resonate with. But I need to know why the name. I mean, you guys were so it's you and your sister, just so everybody can
Yes.
understand that. Were you having coffee and you're like, hey, this is a great name for a podcast? Or how do we get here?
Okay, so when we thought of the idea of the podcast, it was because we were in our group and we were just realizing there were so many topics that we needed more time to discuss.
Okay.
And like we couldn't answer them in just like messages, and like we were trying to do it individually, but we were like, we need to just like sit down and discuss this. But what we didn't want to do was fall into the typical diet industry where weight loss was a major focus.
Right.
So when we, started with, rolling around ideas of thick thighs, the idea was really that we were not going to focus on weight loss at all. That wasn't the goal. That wasn't the topics of anything that we were going to cover, although it is definitely could be a side effect of you gaining a healthier lifestyle. But the idea there was that like, there isn't one body type that we are going to say is healthy. There isn't one, definitely smaller is not better. It's not the goal. It's not like, the idea for a lot of women, because that's me, primarily my audience, is that the smaller you can get, the more you can shrink, the more valuable you are. And that's in your body, and that's in your personality. That is the space that you take up. So when we thought about Thick Thighs Save Lives, we were talking about taking up space, and taking up space, as a human here in this world for women.
Was it the first and only name?
Yeah, we really? Stuck with it. Yeah, we stuck with it from the very beginning. And we have not, we've taken some different, because, no matter what you do, there's always going to be people who say you're doing it wrong.
Oh, 100%.
No matter what you do. And I think everyone should know that.
Forget about it. Yeah.
You could be like, but like, going back to what you said, if you just show up as your authentic self and just show up as that in the world, like you are going to live an authentic life, and that reads well to other people. The way that I've always said it to my sister is, I'm like, if you just show up, because she was actually more nervous than me to ever do the podcast. But I said, if you show up as the authentic you're encouraging every woman who sees it and listens to it to do the same thing. And like, in just the realest way, talk about these issues that we've faced, that we see in our community, and just answer them as honestly as we can, and talk about them as honestly as we can, and not try to like be these perfect role models or have the perfect answer for everything. Like, I'm not going to. Right. But I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to live authentically. And I hope that encourages people who listen to me to do the same thing.
I love that. How long have you guys been doing? I know you're like around 200 episodes. How long have you actually been doing the show?
I think 2 years. We've done one a week. We've never missed. That's so awesome. We've done one a week. Is that 3 years? Yeah, I think so. It gets a little muddy. Sometimes we just show up and we're like, this is what we're talking about today.
I said there'd be no math. I have no idea how many years that is, nor am I going to try to calculate it. So I love that. So sometimes it's just you guys like, hey, like, let's just have a great, some of my favorite conversations to listen to are just and that's like I told you, like, let's just hit record and talk, and then something awesome will come out of it. I mean, that's always my belief systems. I think that, if you get two people who are willing to just be open and honest and not like be afraid to say something wrong, like, you're going to get really cool conversations that are going to be meaningful to somebody else. Because I think in our lives, a lot of times, like you said, like, we shrink our personalities and we don't say or ask the questions. One of my big things is ask more questions, right? Like, if I'm working with any group or talking to anybody, is like, ask more questions. And I always say, well, somebody's probably already asked that. And I said, who cares? And I always say, like, there is a great possibility that I might answer it completely different than I answered it last time, because I'm a different version of me than I was the last time somebody asked me that same question. And so never be afraid to ask questions. I think it's one of the greatest gifts we have that's really underutilized.
I love that you said that too, because, over the the time span that I've been, answering questions about health and fitness with the community, like my ideas about things have changed.
Oh, yeah.
And like sometimes, that's a hard pill to swallow, but I think it's really important that, other people can even see that, that we can recognize your idea about something can change. And that is okay. That doesn't mean you're a hypocrite. That doesn't mean you can get new information, you can learn, you can talk to more people, and you can humbly come out with a different opinion. And like, that's the human experience. Like, if we stay in the same, if we say, like, I answer this question the same every single time, it's like, are we learning? Are we growing? That's why I love ask more questions. Like, ask me, I want to ask you, a lot of women who come in, they're like, I'm sure you've been asked this a million times. And I was like, well, not by you.
Yeah. maybe not. I have two things that I use to kind of describe myself in that, with that context, is that I'm always confident, but sometimes I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And then my other one is that I reserve the right to change my mind at any given time based on new information that is presented to me. And I think if we're open to that, right? Like I love, the human body, and I love science, and I love all of those things. And one of the biggest misconceptions is that science is static, right? Like it's consistently changing. Like we're consistently learning new things about, molecules and everything. And so if I'm unwilling to, it's like you said something earlier that I thought was really cool that I wanted to come back to, is, we were talking about, like, in your group, they'll be like, well, what about this diet? Or what about this new thing? It's like, I agree with you. It's like, hey, let's check it out. Let's look at the framework. Let's see how it feels. Let's look at it. And is there something that we can learn from it? Is there a piece we can take out from it? Like I always make a joke, like I say, keto, paleo, and then I start making up a whole bunch of random words. Yeah. And I'm like, if you could take all of those, inside of all of those is probably your perfect combination.
Yeah.
Like in some way, shape, or form, right? If we're going to have to put it in but it's going to look totally different for all of us. So I'm not afraid to look at new things, but I'm also not the kind of person that says, well, this has to be true because it was on the magazine cover, right? So I'm willing to dance in the arena with it and figure out, like, hey, this is kind of a cool concept. I never thought of that before. And so I think if being open is kind of what you're saying. It was just how I think we both kind of feel about the world that we've chosen to play in.
I know. And you can, if you are open, you can learn things from people, different aspects, different ways to eat, different forms to work out. You can learn different aspects of those and take what you like and discard what you don't. Like, you have that power. Like, you don't have to go all in on something like CrossFit and say, like, well, I'm not a yoga person. Like, you could do both. Yeah. 2 days a week you could do a higher intensity workout, and 3 days a week you could do more of a yoga. Maybe you go for a walk even. Like, you could pull out different aspects of whatever you're looking at and figure out what works for you and discard the rest. Totally. There's no rules that say you have to just take in. If you choose to eat a diet that has lower carbs, that doesn't mean you have to be just keto. Like, maybe what works for you is, eating a lower carb diet.
100%. Cool. You don't need to identify as the name of the diet. Like, you can do this. This is how I eat. Well, what's it called? It's how I eat. I'm not sure. I don't know if I need to give it a fancy name or whatever. Maybe I'll get a website or trademark it, but I don't think it's going to be that popular. It's just how I eat, right? It has nothing to do with anything. When you're talking, I was thinking about, like, I started lifting weights when I was 11 years old. And so people always ask me, like, Jay, what's the perfect workout? And I'm like, since I was 11, I've probably done everything. I mean, if you name it, I've probably done various workouts or various forms of it. And I've probably created my own personal system out of all of those things. You know what I mean? So it doesn't have to be like, I think we get really into labels. It's like, oh, you're a CrossFitter. It's like, I love some of the things that CrossFit does, but I know my body, and the likelihood of me snatching anything at 50 years old, which I've never snatched in my life, it doesn't interest me, right?
Yeah.
Because I want to play again tomorrow, right? And so, but I love, other versions and portions. They're like, but when the CrossFit games are on, like you watch it like it's no tomorrow. I'm like, because I'm fascinated by human beings. Like, just because they're doing it doesn't mean I need to do it. Right. But I love it. And the same thing to go with like yoga and Pilates. And like, do you do yoga? And I'm like, not very well.
Same.
Poorly.
I try, not very well.
I'm very poor at it, but that doesn't mean that I can't do it, right? Like, and I think we get caught up in this thing of like, what's perfect? And the answer is there's no thing, but that's whether it's fitness or nutrition or life in and of itself. And so it's been such an awesome, I can't believe we've already been talking for an hour. Just to have a conversation with somebody who I feel like I'm glad there's other people out there that are spreading the same version of the message I am, so that we can, help more people. Like if we can't help everybody, that's okay. As long as somebody listening can take away some little nugget or some piece of information, it's going to make me super happy. So we talked about the podcast. So Thick Thighs Save Lives. We're all going to download that, start listening to it. I love podcasts. And so I'd rather do that than watch TV or anything like that. Same. So I can't wait to dive into some of your episodes. Constantly Varied Gear. The website's so cool, guys. Literally, you're going to be like, are those women's leggings? And I'll be like, maybe. But they feel good. But there's so much cool stuff. Like I want the shirts. I want everything.
Sneak peek to men's shorts coming out. I don't know when this episode will air, but we will have some.
Love it. It's also cool. I love to support people who are doing awesome and amazing things. And so, is there anything that we didn't cover where people can go find you? Like, what's the easiest way? If somebody said, Kelsey's awesome, like, how do I just see what she's doing today? Like, where's the easiest place to go?
I would probably say in our Facebook group. Our Facebook group is Fitness Programming by CVG. Okay. And I'm in there every day, and that has like an amazing community of women in there that just like are encouraging and just like want to clap for you on your fitness journey. Like that's the environment that we've created. Like if you are like, doesn't matter what type of fitness you're doing, or if you're not doing any right now. Like that's the idea, is that it's just like, you don't have to be working out. Like you're just like on your journey, trying to live a healthy lifestyle and want to be around people that are on a similar, like-minded, and also probably wear our leggings. They're all in there. Also on Instagram, Constantly Varied Gear, and my Instagram is Little Miss Hellyar.
All of that. That's cool.
Yeah. Any of those places, you can definitely find me in an amazing community that like just want to help you. I did want to say too, when people ask you, what's the best workout to do? And, people ask me that all the time. And my answer is the one that you're going to show up for.
100%.
Because
the one you'll do.
The one you'll do. If it's just a walk, if it's a walk, great. Like if it's stretching, great. Like it's the one that you're going to do.
100%. The one you'll do, the one that makes you happy. Like literally, we're designed to be here, not to be miserable. Like we need to figure out any tools we can use that will put a smile on our face and a little, just a little abundance and happiness in our heart. And I think that's the key. It's like, it's refreshing to have a conversation with somebody who listen, weight loss is awesome if that's your goal. Weight gain is awesome if that's your goal. Like living your best life is the message behind all of this. And I think there's a million ways. There's a million ways to get there. So thanks for spending an hour with me. This is awesome.
Thank you so much. This is really awesome. I'm like obsessed. I love it.
Oh, cool. And so what I'll do, everything will be in the show notes, guys, because I know we gave you a lot of different like URLs and websites and things like that. It'll all be in the show notes. And then when I have an awesome guest, I'm going to connect with you. And so people will be able to see you on my pages and all that kind of stuff like that. So we'll make sure we get this show out there, and we'll get people in some leggings and having some fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Kelsey, thank you for your time. I'll see you soon. Hey, before you go, I'd just like to say thank you again for listening to the Thrive Forever Fit podcast and watching on YouTube. It means the absolute world to me. And if you would do me one favor, and that is simply subscribe and review this podcast on whatever platform it is that you enjoy it on: YouTube, Apple, Spotify, doesn't matter. I would absolutely be so grateful and so thankful if you do that for me. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you again next week with an awesome, awesome episode. Bye.